The heavy hitters have finally arrived.
Spiky Bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Rob Bear from SpikyBits.com, and we are unboxing and building the new biggest baddies / fatties for Age of Sigmar. Kragnos is finally here and came out with a whole slew of releases, and with everybody's extra support on Patron and everything that we've had going on here with the 3D printing marketplace, we've been able to actually do more in our videos and also content on the site, which is really great. So we're actually able to unbox and build 2 of these because we have a little bit of extra studio help. I would have liked to have done all of them, but we couldn't get to quite all of them on the weekend. I do like to have some time off, and please forgive the mess here because I was actually painting my first Marvel Crisis Protocol figure over the weekend too, and it was fun. I really enjoyed it, and they're really great figures, and we'll talk more about that hopefully in the future. But let's talk about the Sigmar releases. So we got Kragnos here. He's $160 US, of course. The Seraphon Lord Kroak, who haven't seen a refresh in nearly 20-30 years. I don't even know. I remember buying him in Pewter, the regular Slam Mage Priest. I think they rebooted him in the early 2000s, right around in there. This is just an incredibly dynamic model from the looks of it, and I can't wait to really dig in and kind of look at it. Now he's 115, so gone up quite a bit. I think I remember paying $50 for the floaty toad way back in the day, which was kind of a lot for a pewter figure if you think about it, but it was a lot of material. Now, of course, this isn't all of the releases this week for the Sylvaneth. We got the Warsong Revenant, which is actually for my personal army, so that's $55. And the new Witch Hunters, Galen and Dorian Van Hest, which are $50 as well. And then, of course, the new Twins of Slaanesh, which are really cool looking and very dynamic. I got a chance to look at the kit. I think it goes together pretty well. And I like how it's got the 2 different sets of peacock robes that go with it, and it's very dynamic how they made it interchangeable and stuff, and I think it's really cool. I would have liked to have done it, but I feel like these are just way more high interest. I mean, I used to play Lizardmen back in the day, and then having a big baddie like Kragnos on the table, I just wanted to see how big he was, because I actually still have my Beastclaw Raiders from, you may remember some tutorials and stuff 5 years ago or so. So I don't know if he's going to fit into my army. It's a lot of points, but we'll see how it all shakes up in Sigmar 3.0, which isn't that far off either, of course. So the Talon of Slaanesh are the new twins, the Dexessia in, I forgot what the voice name is, but either way, it's $110. So lots going on there. Oh, and I guess we should talk about the Melusi Iron Scale came out as well for $35. That's the Daughter of Cain that came in, gosh, what was the box with the Slaanesh? I don't even remember anymore. It's been like 3 months, but it's been forever. I don't know what to say there. But either way, she's finally out by herself. Now, the releases initially were allocated to 1 per store, and I think 2 of the books, but then GW actually allowed stores to order up to 10 of each, which is really good. I'm not sure if the demand is there for every store, but stores just love a chance to actually make some money, because it's been a rough 5-6 months since the holidays, and any good news is, well, any news on the allocation front, usually more than one is good news these days. So here we are. So don't forget, you can always get your hobbies for less at dicehead.com, Amazon, or of course your local game store. But hopefully this week everybody is able to find what they want at the venue they want, and not have to rely on scalping or digging around on the internet. So let's jump right in, take a closer look. Let's start with Kroak and take a look at the sprues. So, like I said, Lord Kroak just looks great, and I mean, he's just so stylish and so dynamic. It's really incredible what GW can do with their designs these days. I mean, their designs and their sprue technology is the top of the game, and bar none, 100%. And it's just crazy out there. So it's 1 normal size sprue and 1 halvesy sprue, so to speak, and an 80mm base as well. I hate picking up bases sometimes. So 80mm base, which is kind of crazy when you think about that big chunky thing is going to fit on a little 80mm base. But I guess we'll find out here in a second for sure how all that's going to work out. Let's take a look at the instructions and see if there is any crazy gotcha. So there's your sprue breakdown, 80mm, and let's jump into it. So it looks like the right and left halves, top and bottom, all go together as some sort of crazy Death Star, jungle Death Star ports looking thing. I think that's the power source on the back maybe. And I really like how they have all these vines to kind of hold it up and make it more dynamic, and in order to hide it, it looks like they put more underneath it. And then some more panels, starting to build the dais of the throne on the front. And then it looks like some left and right halves some more going together to kind of make the whole like seat, and then some fiddly bits here to give them that Blizzardman hieroglyphic kind of Seraphon type look, some gems, power crystals and things, and then they start disguising, you know, how it's all suspended with some of these jungle vines kind of hanging down, which I think is really cool. Some more crazy bones things on the left and right side. I think the old one only had 2 of those, and then some underneath it too. Now that you don't have to really worry about holding it up as well, but those look pretty fiddly, so we'll see, you know, how much weight they can hold and things like that. And then the more ornamental stuff up here, and then flipping to the side here, just building out more. It looks like, oh, there's all the snakes and everything. You can put all that on the throne area. It looks like there's a slot for Lord Kroak to sit in. You got the little power nub things on the back, more vines, more crazy looking things, and then you start building up the little power spiral globy things, technical term TM, and they look to lock. So it looks like they have these little pads that are cleverly disguised. So this one's gonna lock into here, this one locks into here, and they're just parts that were hanging off the little jungle vines. And then it looks like this one locks into, oh, so this flips around, interesting, and locks into here on the side. So this actually, I don't agree with how they did this, because this is actually going to be on the front and then it locks in right there, but it's a little bit wonky to look at. And then you have, so then you're going to have 2 of these on the front now, where you have the stabilization from this, and then this locks into this cleverly disguised little annex piece here, or attachment piece from the top to the side here. So all those little jungle feathers and things, it looks like they're 100% necessary, because they're going to actually support the structure of the little globes and things and spinny things here, and a lot more of that. Looks like some slicing, some dicing, and all sorts of things here. But we've seen stuff like this before with like the Satan from the Necrons, and all of it went together really well. It's just, you know, a lot of dry fitting and spinning things and kind of looking at it, because this paper looks complicated. So I think once we get in there and we actually dry fit things and kind of look at it, it'll be a lot more understandable. But they have these really great nubs. I definitely recommend for a lot of this using some of this Tamiya clear extra thin cement, because it's going to get in there, it's going to fill gaps and things. And then for some of the parts that actually attach to the bottom, I use just a normal like quick fitting gap filling glue. It's usually purple if you get it from BSI. I got this from Monument because I wanted to try it out, and I love this stuff actually better. I used to like the Army Painter glue that came in a black cap too, but I haven't been able to find it in like 2 years, so I don't know what happened to it. I hope it comes back, but that stuff's just as good too. That Monument Hobbies glue, I really like it. It's quick set, so you don't have to hold on there as much. So once you get this assembly all together, it looks like it cleverly locks in using these 2 attachment points. One looks to be, and I like that they did this close up here, because sometimes this stuff's hard to tell. There's like a little nub on a leaf and another little nub on a leaf, and that's how it locks in. And then I guess you just kind of figure out where it actually attaches. So there's going to be 2 connection points for the whole assembly. So it isn't just this point with the vines. You actually create a whole bottom here, a whole jungle floor, so to speak, for it all to attach to, which is probably why they can put it on a smaller base and actually have all that weight on it, which is kind of crazy when you start thinking about it. And then you got Lord Kroak, and you can you know, clip him out and have him looking, you know, rested, like, oh man, I'm just so old, like straight up Yoda style. Or you can do him like crazy Egyptian kind of headdress look here, or you can go with the more traditional Vegas showgirl look right over here. Now I think this headdress comes off. This looks like something that might need to be attached, but I think there was a nub. I remember seeing some sort of nub. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I think there was some sort of nub, but I'm not sure till we get all that done. And then he's got his little friend here with his pokey stick that'll guard him till the end of days. And there you can see you can actually lock him into there. So you don't need to glue him down. This guy you could glue down here, but because the contact points are kind of behind the model, you could actually paint these 2 separate and then glue them down if you wanted to. Now, he's painted a little bit different with some blues and some violets, and then of course Kroak is painted. They used to have him like mummy wraps in like Egyptian, but he kind of almost looks alive here. So I suppose, I don't know what the rules are on just a regular floaty toad, but I guess you could maybe use him as a floaty toad. But the old floaty toad model was on I think like a 50 mil round base. Well, it was a 50 mil square at the time. So I'm not sure how all that works, but it'd be way cooler to have a very much more dynamic Kroak here. And of course I don't have it on me, but there's an AOS base size chart that might actually say that the floaty toad or the slan mage priest is on an 80 mil round base. I don't know. I should have looked that up before here, but I'm sure somebody can comment and let us know there. So that is all the stuff. Rules wise, he was very similar to how he was already, but he's got this new mechanic here where, you know, if you take damage, you got to roll 3d6, and on a 20 plus, the model is slain. I think you add what it is. So you could roll really bad or really high, which would be really bad, and you could like just lose all his wounds all at once, which is kind of crazy, but he's way more resilient. You do have to check this every phase though. So it's a really interesting dynamic, kind of something we hadn't really seen in Sigmar yet, I don't think. It's definitely going to be worth keeping an eye on, because sometimes some of these slam mage priests can get a little crazy on the tabletop. Just straight slinging spells everywhere. They get crazy. So that being said, let's take a look at the sprues real quick, and we'll build him too. First up, I grabbed the long sprue here, and we just wanted to take a quick look at things and get the light right. There we go. So you can see very, very detailed stuff here. There's all sorts of little skulls inside of things, chains, jungle vines. I mean, stuff you couldn't even see in the instruction manual. That's just incredible once you kind of start looking at the sprues and really diving in. Just crazy stuff. I mean, there is so much going on with this. I mean, I don't even know where to start. It's you got fauna leaves, you got crazy palanquin, dais structures, all sorts of these slice and dice things. These are the ones that go on the side, and then you got his headdress, kind of topper, banner topper sort of thing. I mean, I don't even know. Like, I can't even tell where. Oh, I think he's on this one. I was like, I couldn't even tell where Kroak was. There's Kroak. I think that's Kroak. Yeah, that's part of Kroak's body. Some of his heads, some of his headdresses. This is the main piece right there that actually everything attaches to, and then you build up that jungle canopy around the floor. His headdress there. I don't see his Vegas showgirl. Oh, there it is. There's the Vegas showgirl outfit. And the back of Kroak. So all the little Kroaky stuff is on this sprue here. So let's see how he goes together. Okay, so here he is. This was about a 2.5 hour build, so to speak. So to get this all together and get everything kind of in sections and stuff. Now, the one thing I noticed too, you know, when we talk about this in each video, if you don't like kind of how the texture actually works, like you have these really cool, you know, textured areas here, and then you've basically got a blank base, you can use G-Dub's texture paints, or of course, I like to use this Liquitex resin sand. This stuff is great. It lays down, it doesn't shrink or anything like that, so you can put it basically right up to the lip of anything and it'll cover it right up. It's got really great texture, and then you can dry brush it right with the rest of any sort of ground texture, because GW seems to be putting more and more ground textures and base effects and things onto their miniatures. So, you know, sometimes it's better to kind of have something that really ties it all together. But that's just what I do, you know, keeping in mind if you don't like the solution that's out there, or you don't like that bare looking area to the base. Now you can see, I mean, there's just tons of detail, and it's crazy how this assembly all goes together and kind of locks in, and there's two great connection points. Now you can see some of the, you know, the sprues and stuff with the big chunks and things, so you're gonna have to be careful about trimming off all the flash and everything all the way around, because there's some key areas that it would be super noticeable, kind of like that we left on there, just to kind of, you know, get this together in a reasonable amount of time. So but everything looks great. It's got the little turbojet back here, the Batman Rolls-Royce engine, the power knobs and the globe effects and everything. I want to talk about his little helper guardian here. I didn't notice in the instructions that his leg is actually attached to the base here. But if you do want to paint him separate, you can not leave him glued down, and he actually locks into that little hole right there. And then you'd have to glue the leg together at that point, but maybe you could do a little bit of touch-up paint if you get too crazy with the glue or something like that. And he attaches in pretty good, so I don't think if you paint him, you'd have to worry about him too much to getting in there. And then of course, it's a tale of two Kroaks. You can get this guy with his crazy Egyptian areas, and he's got I don't know, I guess scepters and things, and then you can put the helmet on him and he looks great. Very, very cool. Or you can do Vegas Showgirl Kroak, which I thought locked in here. Oh, it goes up top. Oh, I think you have to do, that's what it was. You have to do the other head. I don't think that's how it's supposed to look. Yeah, I think you have to do the other head. So really you kind of have to pick it, and the only options you have is to choose between this down here. And he does look like he has mummified robes, but everything he's painted green. So like on the box, so like I don't know what that's about. I would just paint him with like mummified robes, but maybe a little bit of green tint, because obviously he's in the jungle, so that's a thing. But I think he looks way cooler with that. But you could switch out the head and do the different effect and have him like the Vegas showgirl Kroak if you really wanted to. It just kind of depends on the look you're going for. But whichever one you choose, he is super easy to slot in here once you get it all built. He's got that little tab on his butt, and he should knock this guy out, I'm sure, but he should just slot right in to place. And you just have to be a little careful about his little Meepo, his little buddy right there. Not sure if that's his actual name, but that's what we'll name him. And boom, he all goes into place. Now, how does he compare to other miniatures out there? Well, we've got a Stormcast here to kind of show you how he compares. So obviously no comparison. Very, very large in charge. And then I think we even have, oh, we've got a cat here too. Must be towards the lunch hour or the food hour. So we got Alariel from our collection too, just to give you an idea of how they all go together. So she is actually taller than Mr. Kroak, but he definitely looks very stunning and regal as well. So you could almost convert him up and maybe put a caster in there and make him Sylvan if you really wanted to, but I don't know if that would be a lot of work for, I don't know, maybe not a whole lot of return. And we'll compare him to Kragnos here at the end too once we get that one built. And speaking of Kragnos, well, he's up next. So a ginormous model and very, very, I guess ambitious by Games Workshop, to make something that so many different factions could take. That's kind of pricey, to be quite honest. And I'm not sure where everybody's at on his usefulness, because he is 760, I think, points, maybe 40. So that's a lot of points for any destruction army. But the model itself is going to come with 2 full sprues of goodness here and a large, actually, I don't know, what is that, 130? I think that's a 130 base. So let's dive in and take a look at the instructions. So here they are. Let's see how much posability we got. So this is, 130 millimeter round base. That's pretty cool. So we got some slices and cliff facings and things that nothing unlike we've seen before, like with Bella Core, and I'm trying to think who the other cliff rocking miniatures were in the past. I want to say they were all Sigmar stuff, but nothing too crazy here. Definitely what we would expect. Generally these builds go together very smoothly. And then you've got a lot of hollow areas here, it looks like. So the back quarters are going to go together, and then the halves of the torso, the centaur legs. So it's just a lot of building assembly. So you want to make sure you get this like super orientated well, and dry fit everything, because one piece out of whack is going to screw up your whole Cadbury Easter egg as you try to fit them all together, and at the top none of the stuff's going to go together. So once you get to this point, you want to make sure it's all nice and square and plumb. When we check the sprues, there might be little nubs and things that help line it up, but seriously, dry fit all this stuff, because one little piece out of whack will really screw you up. And then here you can see where they basically want you to put the little tassels on his feet, boots with the fur, and lock all that in. He's got a beehole ring back here too. I don't even know what that, I guess that's for the tail. So he's got a lot of ornaments on here. So he's very centaur-y, but he also has a lot of like bling going on, I guess. And then you start building up the top here. So left and right half, back half, hammer, fist thing, front, WWE Championship belt of all the mortal realms. And then he's got this arm, which doesn't look to have a part number. So, but I think you could probably find that. That's not that big of a deal. And oh, it was the Sigmar. I remember what so this is very similar to the Mega Gargants. Like they were all very hollow, and if you got one little piece out of whack, like we saw with the video, I was trying to customize one. It kind of went sideways really quick, unfortunately. But it is what it is there. Let's see. So then you start gluing on all his bling once you attach his top to his bottom. You always got to attach the top to the bottom. and then more bling on the side here. I'm not sure if this is something that you could paint separately, like if you wanted to airbrush all the browns and things, and then maybe glue on all this painted, you know, already pre-painted golden shaded. I mean, it's a possibility, but until I get, you know, start looking at the model, I'm not sure that that's something that you could do, but there is a lot of it on here that it all kind of hooks together. So that's a tough one, because then you wouldn't, you know, if you want to shade it, you wouldn't know where all your browns and things go. So I almost think like you would have to airbrush it with all this, the trim on it, so you know where to keep all the areas like darkened and kind of create that contrast. And then you're gonna have to come in with a paintbrush and paint all that base coats by hand with like a bronze, and then work it up to like a gold, or you know, paint it with like a tin bit sort of thing, and then work it up to like a fine bronze, because just depending on how, you know, this guy's old, he's not gonna have super gold looking everything. The shield attaches here on his arm with more bling on it, of course, so depending on how you wanted to paint this, you know, you could keep it separate perhaps, and we'll check that out. And then of course he's got his you know, Run DMC clock right there, just to keep track of everything going on in the Mortal Realms. And then options wise, he's got two different optional heads, or actually two different poses of heads. I think he has more than one head. Yeah, he's got more than one head here. So he's got an open mouth, closed mouth, semi-closed mouth, oh, teeth mouth. So open mouth, teeth mouth, closed mouth, depending on how you want to attach all that. So he can be looking forward of the model, or he can be turned and more dynamic, like doing the Lion King thing over here, or turn and looking kind of where the pose of the centaur is. Now, me personally, I'll probably go with this sort of thing, but not necessarily like, hey, check out my teeth. Maybe like the roar. That's kind of how I think we'll get it together. And then there is his rule. So not a whole lot going on. I did notice that there was some stubs, some nubs here, so you may not have to glue him down, and you can paint all of this separate, which is probably good. And then you can attach all those little bling parts, and I think there was some little skulls that you glue on too. So you could keep all that off, glue it on separate, you know, paint it separately, and then glue it on after you do all the cliff face and the stone detail work and things, or you know, paint it separately. I think it depends on how much. It just depends on your comfort level, what you would do here. I'd probably just glue this little stuff on and then pick it out with some golds, you know, be very, very careful. You gotta be brave sometime and get in there and base coat it, and then work around all your airbrush work or all your dry brush work on the stone effects right there. So it looks like they're using a lot of teals and stuff here, and with, you know, some actual metals at the high points of the color because of his age and stuff, and a lot of bronzes and a lot of, you know, darkened metal stuff here. So that kind of goes with the theme. I definitely think you probably want to glue all this stuff together, unfortunately, and then you're gonna have to pick it out separately. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. There is so much trim on this model. It just, man, I don't even know. Like that's a tough one. Like I get it, but that really complicates things right there. So you could leave it off. Let's just take a look at the sprues and see. Okay, so 130mm base check. And here are the sprues. So you got these large cliff areas here. His shield is ginormous. That's like almost a 50mm round shield in and of itself. Kind of crazy once you start thinking about it. Some tail detail. It's got a lot going on. Let me get this out of the way so the camera's not focusing on it. And so we got a lot of tail, a lot of the tassels and things, all the different bling that's going to go all over his body. Let's see if we can find the centaur. Yeah, okay, so these little nubs that you start attaching that stuff to, and more nubs right there. I don't know, like you could have a lot of glue marks. It could go south really quick. I think you just gotta bite the bullet and glue this stuff on, unfortunately. It's just rough. It's gonna be a lot of brush work, but you can save a lot of time with all the open areas and things with a lot of airbrush work too, especially on the base. And there's a shield arm, more bling. The pedestal here, that's part, I guess it's some sort of dais or ritual area where all the destruction armies would leave their stuff to try to get them to come back out of the mountain or whatever. I'm not caught up on the story yet. Most stores only got a couple books in, and I wanted to wait and make sure they sold before I checked it out story wise and lore, what's going on. So lots of bling here, and it looks like there's all these nubs. So in theory, it's gonna lock in, it's gonna be fine, but I think you just have to, like I was saying, bite the bullet and glue all this stuff on. It's great. I mean, it's super detailed. You can do a lot of work with some dry brushing and some washing and some different effects to get in there and really bang it out quick, but you are gonna have to at least base coat it, which is probably gonna take some time. And speaking of time, so this build took about 2.5 hours, slightly longer, I think, than Kroak. But mostly because of all the fiddly bling around the body of Kragnos in general. So here is his little cliff piece here, all glued down. Like I said before, you can definitely use this resin sand to get in there and kind of start texturing it all up and kind of match the texture of this. You can cut some long cuts in it. You can see where there's a lot of gaps. That, sometimes you just kind of gotta watch, like, that's in there, but this is part of the kit itself. So if you have stuff like this, you can use the Super Thin Tamiya glue, or you can use, and I don't have it here, the Vallejo plastic putty to get in there, squirt some in there. Use some flat chisel tips to get that into there, down into there. It'll dry hard, it won't recess like liquid green stuff. This stuff's amazing to work with, and then you can just wipe it away with a damp cloth and you're good to go, or a paper towel, and it'll just harden and you'll be fine. So, or you can just match it to the cracks on here, which would look just fine too, depending on which way you look at it. It might not even be noticeable, but lots of detail going on here. The effigies and the little pieces back here, the little bits of kills and things. This looks like some sort of saber-toothed looking thingy, and then you've got all these other skeletons and the offerings to Kragnos, and you'll notice the two little nubs there, which conveniently he goes right into. So going to be pretty easy to paint the base separately, at least, and then glue him down for the final assembly. And like, he doesn't stay in there, so you do have to kind of hold him or use some blue tack putty, but yeah, it's super easy to get them on there and kind of at least see where everything goes. Now you can check out all of the detail work and things. Like I said, it would be probably better to kind of airbrush around in here and then go back and pick out all the trim, kind of like he was a Space Marine or something like that. It's a lot of work, but I think it's the only way to do it. And then you can do some really sick fades on all the tail and everything, and the shield, like we saw, it's very weathered. So it just kind of depends on how you want yours to look. Like if I was, if I wanted to put this in my Beastclaw Raiders army, or I guess it's just ogres these days, maybe I would just make him, crazy looking ice, like I did with them, like maybe he was in mountain in, the up north, the Chaos Waste sort of, or something like that, and that would be really cool. And I think you can really do a lot of cool themes. Like I have some blue fades up in here, just depending on your army. Like you Goomspike gets, you could do some like sick purple fades or something like that. Like it really just depends. Like it's almost like a blank slate. With lots of areas, lots of open flat areas to kind of crack out and get all those fades and all those things, and figure out how you want to fit him in to your destruction army. And then when it comes time, you can even match your base, which is really cool. It is a little bit pricey of a miniature, and I'm not sure of this effectiveness on the tabletop. Of course, we're about to see, we already know there's a monster phase at the end of the charge phase for Sigmar, so that's pretty cool to see too. So lots going on out there. Now I'm gonna attack him down so I don't drop him, and we'll compare him to some of the other miniatures out there. There he is. So he should stick to the base there, so we can show you how he compares to some of these other miniatures. So there's how he sizes up to Kroak. So Kroak is, he's got a lot going on. He's got a wide stance, but he's not quite as tall as some of these other miniatures out there in the Age of Sigmar world, which kind of makes sense. But he definitely makes up for it in his crazy pew pew powers. And then well, there's a Stormcast. Yeah. Kind of crazy. And let's grab Alariel here, because she has an even bigger base, and I think they might be about a very similar size. It looks like her spear tip definitely puts her over the edge when it comes to size on most miniatures. So yeah, it looks like she is going to be bigger than Kragnos, but not by much. Definitely not by much. With her little spear tip there. So that kind of gives you an idea of just how chunky and massive this guy is. Now this is definitely hollow, so you want to make sure you got a really good seal around here, because you don't want them popping right off that base, because that could be definitely disastrous. So putting that Liquitex resin sand on there might definitely help as well. So that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching our unboxing build of Lord Kroak and Kragnos for Age of Sigmar. And don't forget, you can always get your hobbies for less at dicehead.com, your local game store, or amazon.com. And we'll put links to all these products over on Amazon in the description in the first comment field below. And we also have our hobby essentials list from Amazon. You can check out all the products we recommend, all the stuff we've used in the past. Great list, and there's links to our tutorials that we've done throughout all 12 years that we've been doing this here on YouTube as well as the site. But one of the things I wanted to mention, and also a special shout out to all the patrons that help support all the things we do here on this channel. We just opened up our base level, our $6 per month, so you can get ad-free video access and also a whole bunch of other great things, retail discount codes, the 3D miniature sampler packs, so you can download a bunch of STLs and print them out as well. We have a ton of support options over here and a few openings actually as of right now. So consider supporting what we do here over on Patron as well. There's basically a level for everybody out there, and getting ad-free access to the site for as little as $6 a month is always a bonus too. So thank you so much for watching, and make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on all our videos.